And welcome to the 9th and final session in the Spring 2024 semester of Synoikis Digital Classics. The theme of this semester has been digital approaches to cultural heritage, and we've had several presentations on that have touched on areas around linked open data. We've had a session on Wikidata, we've had a session on gazetteers, so the concept of linked open data shouldn't be new to you. But today we're going to go into a much more detail. We're going to lift the hood and get grease all the way up to our elbows, and we're going to look at linked open data and digital collections. And for this, we're joined by two experts in this area, both people whose faces you've seen before this semester, I think. Paula Granados García from the Endangered Material Knowledge Programme at the British Museum, and Vera Moitinho de Almeida from CODA at the University of Porto. And the only thing I want to say is welcome to everybody who's watching us live, and also to anyone who's watching this not live later. This YouTube video will remain available in the long term. If you want to see the supporting materials behind this session, the link is in the description below the video. You may need to click see more, and there's a link at the bottom to the session page which will have an outline, some suggested readings, some other resources, and an exercise. The exercise, however, is described in more detail in the slides, and because later in the session Vera is going to be showing us the exercise with a bit of a walkthrough, we strongly suggest that you go to the session page right now and download the PDF of the slides so that you have them available to look at while Vera is walking us through the exercise. So we don't have to keep looking at those slides at the same time as we're trying to look at what Vera's doing with OpenRefine. So if you go up there and download those slides while we're talking, that would be really useful later on in the session. Yes, please do use the live chat to say hi, tell us where you are, where you're watching from, also to join in the discussion, ask any questions as we go along. I'll keep an eye on the chat, so if anybody has any questions, if there's anything that's not clear as we're going along, I can draw the speaker's attention to that. I think at this point I should hand over to, I think Paula is speaking first, and well, yes, will give us the introduction to the session and the outline. Thank you both. Thank you, Paula.
Yeah, thank you, Gabby, and welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me to talk about my favorite theme in the world, which is linked open data. So I'm gonna speak about linked open data today because that's what I did my PhD on linked open data as a way to access, share, and analyze data coming from, in my case, Andalusia, so southern Spain, and the potential that linked open data can bring to archaeological research in that area. So yeah, I'm gonna give you a quick overview about linked open data and its potential. So let me go to the next slide. Yeah, so the contents for my bit of this session will be first explaining what linked open data is, basic concepts behind these methods, applications, and resources that may be useful for you in terms of linked open data, although Vera will pick up on this and explore it further with you. So I'm going to start by looking at what linked open data is and some main concepts or terms that you may come across when you are looking at linked open data that have kind of related meanings, but not necessarily mean the same thing. So it's useful to just see the difference between these three different terms. So in the first place, we have linked open data with capital LOD, and this normally refers to the theory, the ecosystem, the technologies, and the kind of the paradigm across and around linked open data. So it's more about the community, the ecosystem, the theory, and the whole like group of technologies that are encompassed by linked open data. Then we have linked open data in lowercase, LOD lowercase, which refers to the specific data sets or files published on the web. So this is the actual data that is published on the web. And then we also have the term semantic web that comes across a lot when we are looking at linked open data. And this refers to the actual web, to the common space where data can be shared, processed, linked, and reused. It's the space, the web, where we publish this information. So having said this, I'm gonna go into the actual what is linked open data, what linked open data means. So first, linked open data is a method for publishing structured data on the web so that it can be interlinked. It builds upon standard web technologies like HTTP protocol, resource description framework, and URIs that we will look at in a minute. And the key concept behind linked open data is that rather than using the web to serve web pages for human readers as documents, it extends the web to share information in a way that can be accessed automatically by computers or software processors. So it's really powerful in the sense that we get access to the data, to the raw data in itself that we can then download, analyze, interlink, etc. So it's really powerful in that sense. So always in any presentation that you see about link open data, you're going to come across these three images. So I thought it was worse. These are quite old now, but I just wanted to give you a quick look at these three images. So first we have the LOD mag, which is, it has the 5-star criteria for linked open data that we are going to look at in a minute. We also have the photo of Tim Berners-Lee, the father of the web, on the top right. And then we also have the image of a triple, the logo or the icon for a triple, which is a kind of a sentence that connects three items. Is the simplest, but at the same time, most powerful way to convey sentences, to convey information. So we're going to look at that as well in a minute. So in 2010, as I was showing you before with the MAG, the 5-star criteria for linked open data was developed. And this standard is key because it allows us to understand, because, you know, many resources and websites, they claim to publish linked open data or to use linked open data, but it's not always the case, or it's not always the case that they are publishing linked open data in its full potential. So it's useful to see this standard and understand the different types of or the different qualities of linked open data that we can encounter. So in order to be linked open data, to be considered linked open data, well, first, the data has to be available on the web under an open license. So that's what is required to be open data. Second, it has to be available as machine readable structured data. So for example, Excel, that would be 2 stars. In order to get 3 stars, the data has to be available in a non-proprietary format, for example, CSV instead of Excel, okay? So Excel, in order to open an Excel document, you need a specific program, that's Excel. But in order to open a CSV file, you can open it with any kind of like a CSV reader that you can get. So it doesn't have to be Excel to open a CSV file. In order to have 4 stars, the data also has to be published following open standards, such as RDF and Sparkle, that we will look at quickly as well later on. And finally, it has to follow all of the above, but also be linked or interconnect with other people's data that can enrich our own information and also provide context. So in order to get the 5 stars, as I am saying, the data has to be open, it has to be structured, it has to be in a non-proprietary format, it has to be published using open standards like RDF and Sparkle, and it has to be interlinked. It has to be connected to other sources that enrich and provide more information to our own data. So all this leads us maybe to ask, then why linked open data? What's the potential? Why is it so important? We have already hinted some of these reasons, but I wanted to give you kind of a summary or a list of the main potentials in my perspective that I have seen in my experience in my PhD of why this is so useful. So in the first place, because of access. The user should be able to access, reuse, and link that to the data that is available. And this is key in research. So when you research you are conducting research on datasets or archaeological sources that are not necessarily within your country or close to your house, and you need to do, you can go to libraries, you can access catalogs online, but wouldn't it be amazing to be able to get access to the data that is available online, to the raw data available online, to make your, to be able to download it and query it and make your own analysis and add information further from your own research. Second, it has to follow open standards. So because this data, we have to describe the way in which we have collated it and how we have modeled it. It's easier for users to understand and reuse in the long term, because we have to explain, we have to follow open standards, and it's easy to understand how the data has been generated and therefore easy to reuse. Third, because of interoperability, as we are saying, is fundamental to be able to link, interlink information in different linked open data sources. And so this, as I was saying before, this brings in context, this enriches the information, and it provides granularity of detail. It allows us to provide even more information. It also allows our data to be searched for and referenceable, so that we know that we are referring to a specific entity. So if we are looking for a place, we know that we are exactly referring to a specific place in a specific period of time, because I know you have seen gazetteers, so this is the idea behind gazetteers, being able to identify the place unambiguously. And finally, and the key aspect for me is the reutilization of the information. So why do we need to be building the same sort of data sets from scratch if we already have that information? Why don't we make that information available so that new researchers, new generations of researchers can build on the information that's already there and keep enriching and keep building on it rather than having to start from scratch? And this takes us also to open-ended potential, because the way in which linked open data operates in this sort of like graphic way of modeling and providing the information, we can keep adding and adding information to it. So it's open-ended potential, as we are going to see in a minute. So just briefly, because I have already explained this, this is basically a graphic that shows the difference between the so-called web of data as opposed to the web of documents. So initially, most of the information published on the web was in the form of documents, and the web was built as a collection of predominantly written documents that capture and present natural language in a form readable by humans, but not easily processed by software agents. And therefore, when the user is not a human, but a computer, the information must be presented in a different format that allows data retrieval and extraction. And so this process is developed in a standardized way so that the very different processors can collaborate in the creation of the so-called web of data. So instead of a web of documents, we have a web of data entities. And this allows the publication of processable and accessible raw information. Over time, the process of linking the semantic web and the web of documents is slowly taking place, and more data providers are contributing their information as part of this web of data. Therefore, as I was saying before, the semantic web provides this common space where data can be shared, processed, linked, and reused. So, next question would be, okay, so this is linked open data. This technology seems really, really interesting, has a lot of potential. I have kind of understood the concepts behind it, but then how do I make it? What is the recipe, or what is the method? What does it require to be possible to happen? So there are three key technologies, or three key ideas that we need to understand that are required in order for linked open data to happen. In the first place is the URIs, so unique resource identifiers, that they are the way to name our data entities, to identify the data entities. The second technology is the RDF, or the resource description framework, which allows us to model this information as linked open data. So it's the standard to model information in the way that is compatible with linked open data. And I'm going to explain in a bit what this means, what resource description framework is. And finally, the last key concept, or last key technology, is the ontologies. Ontologies are vocabularies that we use to model the data, so that both the computer and the user understand the data, the concepts, and the relationships behind the entities. So it's kind of a way of making a common ground between the human and the computer, so that both can understand what we are referring to when we say, when we establish concepts, such as from very basic things like table or pen to more complex things like a human. What is a human? So in order for both the computer and the human to understand what the concept means, we need these vocabularies or ontologies, which are lists of concepts and relationships explained. So, URIs. As I'm saying, a URI is stands for Uniform Resource Identifier. It's kind of the most popular web standard, and is the type of identifier that we use in linked open data. They should be dereferenceable, and that means that they can be looked up by a browser. HTTP URIs are used to refer to entities within the HTTP schema. So this schema tells the client to use the TLS protocol and port 443 to access the resource on the intranet. So it's just the schema that it uses. They are different. It's very key to understand that URIs are different from URLs, because a URI is not supposed to give you back a URL. Which is a uniform resource locator. So a URL is gonna give you a web, it's gonna give you a web page. However, a URI can give you a web page, but not always. It can also provide data directly. It can also provide the RDF data, as I'm explaining. So the next technology that I have mentioned is the Resource Description Framework, or RDF. And as I'm saying, the RDF is the abstract data model at the center of the method. So it's the model that linked open data uses to model information, to model data. So it's based on this triple, these three parts that are connected among them. And we have a really nice diagram here that explains it quite easily, where we have a subject, which is John in this case, a predicate, which is born in, and an object, 1945. So the key aspect of linked open data is that within this triple, each of these elements could be a URI. So we could have a URI that is John, we could have a predicate URI that is born in, and we could have an object. So it allows us, and I'm going to go to the next. So this allows us to keep growing and growing our graph. So in this case, what we have is on the left, we have information about a person that is called Bob. And we can see that Bob is connected to Alice by a predicate, which says is a friend of. So Bob is a friend of Alice. We can also see that Bob is a person. We can also see that Bob is born on 14th July 1990. And we can also see that Bob is interested in a painting, in this case, an entity, which is named the Mona Lisa. So we can also, if we keep exploring Mona Lisa, we can see that Mona Lisa was created by Leonardo da Vinci. And there is also a resource here that is called La Gioconda Washington, which seems to be a recording because we can see the play icon. And La Gioconda Washington is about La Mona Lisa or the Mona Lisa. So as I'm saying here, this has endless potential, because if each of the nodes in this graph, if each of the subjects and objects of this graph are URIs, are entities that can be connected to other entities, we can keep increasing and increasing and growing this graph permanently. So we can ultimately connect a lot of information to this, and we can keep enriching and bringing context to our data, which is great. So finally, the last technology that I mentioned in this linked open data recipe is the ontologies. So ontologies are vocabularies that allow the modeling of any possible domain of knowledge. And they are processable files that enable us to define the complexity of our data sets. And what they do is that they define concepts, data categories, and connections between the categories. So ultimately, an ontology is a file that's read by a piece of software, and is what allows, as I was saying, the human and the computer to understand a concept as a kind of like the same thing, so that kind of we and the computer can understand the same thing as that, so that I can understand that a table is a table in the same way that the computer does. So it's a list, or it's a piece of information, a list of concepts that allows me to think and to identify them in the same way as the computer. So I wanted to kind of give you a super quick overview about this idea of the LOTLAM, which is kind of is bringing the potential of linked open data to the GLAM sector. So it's linked open data in libraries, archives, and museums. And this is a thing that has been developing for a while now, and it has had quite a lot of importance in the sector. There are quite a lot of projects that are trying to apply linked open data. So as I'm saying, linked open data is LOTLAM is linked open data in libraries, archives, and museums, and it's cultural institutions that are recognizing linked data and open access in their digital strategies. And it includes a wide range of initiatives to generate, publish, and sustain linked open data, which is emerging from domain relevant use cases. So it's actually emerging from use cases in the real world, from libraries, archives, and museums that have information and want to connect it to other sources that are available or can be made available to enrich and provide further information. And it requires experimentation because it's an organic and dynamic process. Two key questions, though, when approaching this idea of the LOTLAM are: what are the relevant elements? Do we need the right metadata? So rather than trying to connect everything, we first need to see what is relevant to connect, and whether this information that we are going to be connecting is fully documented, is well documented, that the metadata is there for it to be connected. And second, how do we connect these entities? We need the right relationship. So again, it's not about just connecting everything because we want to, but rather how do we establish these connections? How do we make these connections relevant to us? How can we, make sure that we are creating the right relationship so that this information is discoverable in the future? So those are two questions that I think are really, really interesting and relevant right now to keep exploring further. And mainly the motivations behind the LOTLAM are, first, to be able to interlink cultural information from a variety of sources. It's aimed to achieve semantic interoperability in cultural heritage. It allows us to ask bigger questions that couldn't be asked from individual pieces. It reaches across museums, libraries, and archives. It has an international and multidisciplinary approach, and it involves very different domains. So it can include not only the collection description, but also the archives, the administration, the science, the scholarship, the presentation. So, you know, in the older days, it was very common to kind of separate items in collections by their type. So, for example, sound recordings were separated from documents, which were separated from objects themselves. And now is the time where we are realizing, well, this shouldn't have been done in that way. Maybe we should try to connect all these different items. And because by connecting them, we can see a bigger picture. We can get more information. We can go beyond. In the case of objects, we can go beyond the object itself and connect the object with broader information, with videos, with documentation, with audio, with more information, and kind of bringing context to it, which I think is key. So I'm almost finished. Sorry, I'm taking a bit longer. So I wanted just to finish quickly because I think one of the key aspects of linked open data is being able to use the resources that are already available, that are already there, and use them and incorporate them in your own research. However, not because a resource is available, it means that we have to use it. We have to be clever in this sense, and we have to be critical in the resources we use. So we need to make sure that they are going to be relevant, that the data that they provide is going to be useful for us. So I have put together this super short kind of like plan in terms of how do we approach the idea of using resources that are available. So first, we need to identify relevant data sources. So know the sort of information that we are looking for and identify the resources that can provide this information. Second, we have to survey these data sources. We have to see to what extent they are delivering what they are promising to deliver, because sometimes, as I was saying, some resources claim to provide linked open data, but it's not 5 stars linked open data. So be sure that the data is in the best format possible for your goals, and then yes, go into the data extraction and see how you're gonna do the data extraction, what methods you're going to use, and what, like, how much time it's going to take you, how are you going to process the data, how you're going to query it or analyze it in your own research. I think these are key aspects in any research. And I wanted to finish quickly. So I know you have seen gazetteers. Sorry. So I know you have seen gazetteers, but this is a very simple table that I put together for my PhD research. As I was saying, I looked at linked open data sources in early Roman Spain, in southern early Roman Spain. And this is a table that I did to kind of understand what was the landscape at the moment and what data sources were available at the moment for me to use. And this was kind of the criteria that I follow. So I use the 5-star standard of linked open data to kind of like survey the resources that were available and understand whether they could provide the information that I needed. So this was in 2019, I think 2018, 2019. So maybe things have, I'm sure things have changed right now, but this is sort of an idea of the kind of survey or the kind of like assessment that you can run when you are looking for resources to use in your own research. And I think that was everything. Sorry that I rushed a little bit, but it was a lot of information to convey. So I wanted to make sure that I could cover everything. And also, it's in some cases quite a kind of like a complex idea. So it's good to kind of like try to cover the basics to be able to understand it. So thank you, Gabi.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Paula. That was really useful. I think people have, as I say, there've been a couple of mentions of linked open data in earlier sessions, and this, I think, has put it into some really useful context. And and sort of, in a way, you've sort of gone back to basics. We sometimes say, before you learn to drive, you should first know how the internal combustion engine works. But actually, no one ever does it that way around, right? We learned to drive a little bit a few weeks ago when people were editing Wikidata, or they were browsing Wikidata and looking at the linked open data in that session. But yeah, actually getting in and seeing how the various different pistons and engines and various other things work and what all that means makes a lot more sense now that we've seen use of it. There is one question I've just noticed in the chat that is in reference to your previous slide, Paula. You might want to have a quick just if you could go back one slide to your chart with the different stars.
Sorry, I was muted. That is a very good question. I had to use different colors for the stars because I realized that even when they had the star, it wasn't a fully green star. So even if in this case they were following, so as I was saying, the W3C recommendations for linked open data are RDF, URIs, and Sparkle. So in that column, I had to use the different colors because it meant that maybe they were using one of the standards, one of the recommendations, but not the three of them. So in that column, I had to color code the stars to make sure that I was reflecting that mismatch or that kind of like nuance in that they were not using the three recommendations, but rather just one of or two of them. So that's why I have green, orange, and red in some of the cases.
So quite a few of your data sets, for example, have they'll all have RDF, but not all of them will have a triple store that you can query using Sparkle, at least not public facing. So that's the
exactly.
And it's worth noting that might have changed in the last 5 years, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, this was from 2018, so a long time ago. So I hope and I imagine things may have changed, and this list can be grown a lot more right now. But yeah, that was from the time, and I kind of captured this from my thesis. So yeah, I'm a bit embarrassed to be showing this, but I thought it would be useful as a way to survey resources to give you some idea, because I think it's really useful to when you approach a digital humanities research in our case, to kind of like figure out the whole data management plan, the data process, and like not just going into acquiring the data, but thinking, okay, what type of data do I need? What are the sources? How am I going to collect it? How am I going to analyze it, and all that. So sorry that I'm overrunning here, and it's Vera time. So sorry, but yeah.
Sure. Great, thank you, Paula. Yeah, Vera, we'll hand over to you whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, thank you for the invitation again, Gabby, to have a presentation in this spring seminar, spring series, I mean. And I'm very, very happy. And thank you, Paula, because you made my life much, much easier by, explaining what linked open data is and all the concepts around it. So I will just move to my presentation. And, I'm Vera Moitinho Almeida. I'm a researcher and coordinating the Center for Digital Culture and Innovation at the Faculty of Arts and Humanities of the University of Porto. And I will be, talking, of course, about linked open data, but not the same things that Paula has just mentioned before. So this is just a very, it's just to illustrate a little bit about all the entangled or networks around the linked open data cloud among different disciplines and so on. But I will just move on because we should hurry a little bit. So as Paula has mentioned before, there are different types of vocabularies, controlled vocabularies, ontologies to model all the data. And these are just some examples, like the ORCID to identify researchers. The DOI, for instance, to identify, it's a digital object identifier to identify research work like articles, books, and so on, but not only. DataSite, VIAF, Zenodo, European Open Science Cloud. Well, VIAF actually is for institutions, for instance, like museums, libraries, universities, and so on. And Zenodo and the EOSC, European Open Science Cloud, they actually enable to archive data among many other issues, but they also enable to mint a DOI for every publication or work that we archive there. They're not actually archives, but they're more of repositories, but that's not the subject of today's presentation. Well, the next one that I'm showing here is the GeoNames, exactly, that enables to create linked open data for names of places, not only modern places, but also ancient places. All these that I'm showing here, they are multilingual. So it enables, well, it enriches the linked open data by enabling to search or access the data in different languages. The next one I'm showing here, it's Pleiades. I think you had already a session on this spring series about Pleiades, but it's for mostly for ancient places, so very much useful for archaeology and history. Then on your bottom left, I'm showing here the Getty vocabularies. There are two interfaces, but I won't be explaining all the details about them. But nevertheless, the Getty AAT, so the Art and Architecture Thesaurus online, is also multilingual, and it's controlled vocabularies for art and architecture, of course, for objects, techniques, imaging techniques, for instance, 3D scanning, laser scanning, photogrammetry, and also for some places and names of people and so on. And on your bottom right, you have chronontology, but there are many more, like periodo for places, ancient places mostly. Just for you to know, so if you download the slides, all the slides have links to the web pages, so you're able to see in more detail each of these images that I've used to illustrate all these concepts. So another possibility is to use Wikidata. And Wikidata is quite, well, actually, I think it's the largest database in the world, in the sense that, well, it's open also, accessible, and anyone can actually upload data to Wikidata. It's part of the Wikimedia Foundation, so they have several different services, like Wikipedia, one of the best known services. But for research, I'm very much fond of Wikidata because it has been quite useful in different projects. So, for instance, if you search in Wikidata for museums, and I will just open here, sorry, the link. Oh, just here. Okay, so if you just go to Wikidata and, well, search museums, I've already searched, but it's for you just to know where to search. You get, for instance, this page, and it has a very short explanation about what a museum is. It's very, very, very short. We all know that, but you can contribute and make it a little bit longer. It's multilingual. At this stage, it's only in 4 languages. So the name of museum in different languages, so anyone can search in the English, Portuguese, French, and Spanish. It's a subclass of GLAM. Paula already explained what GLAM is. So galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. And if you go on, down, if you scroll down, you'll see many more information and data associated to museum. But what I really want to show you here, it's the identifiers. So A museum has several identifiers, like the FAST for the English heritage, but also the National Library, Library of Congress, and so on, from Spain, France, Israel, and whatever, and many other countries, I think it should have. And the Getty AAT should be a little bit, oh, I know I've seen it before. It's so long. So nevertheless, it has many identifiers. And why is this important? Because here you're using the identifier from Wikidata. It's like your passport number, but in this case, the Wikidata number. And by having associate different identifiers from other institutions, it's good to have some redundancy. So if something happens to one of the institutions with one of these codes, you can use the other code to link your data. Well, and I will just switch. And okay, Wikidata also has for place, periods, for objects, and many other things like in Wikipedia. This is one of the case studies of a project that used a music project associated to jazz, and used and was built on top of Wikidata. So, for instance, oops. I will show. It's already opened here, so it's easier. Sorry, here. So by using Wikidata, you're able to see all the liaisons. So in this case, related to Dave Brubeck, all the other musicians either have played with him or have been influenced by him, or played some of his musics and whatever. And you can also check other, for instance, similar, sorry, it takes a little bit, related with other things, or even with gender. Sorry, clustered by, well, men and women in this case. And also you can choose, for instance, different, let me see if this works, and see if there are any, I'm just clicking without, well, it's a random click, to see if they have any relation with each other. Perhaps they played with each other, they interpret different works, and so on. Okay, so I will just... Another example is the Witch project. This project was very interesting because it just started as a small project, and there was so many people participating in this work that after that, a museum was created based on the information that was created in Wikidata. So this site is also built on top of Wikidata, and you can just click and learn a little bit more about the different witches that were accused, and the places where they were, where different things happened to each of them. So you can go to the wiki page, you can see more info, etc. Okay, I won't spend much time with this now again. There are also many portals or aggregators that use linked open data exactly to aggregate the different information that is completely dispersed through several other institutions like museums, archives, universities, and so on. In this case, this is the Ariadne portal, so it's specific to archaeological data. It has from GIS to gray literature, images, and so on, from excavation surveys, but also archived information in libraries. And well, it uses several information such as geographic coordinates, but also the DOIs, and also as Paula has mentioned. It also has the RDF so that anyone can search via Sparkle, for instance, to get the information more easily and in a more efficient way. And the same goes to other kind of portals and aggregators like the GBIF, that it's free and open access to biodiversity data, and it has a huge amount also of records, data sets, and so on, but related to biodiversity. It's also used in archaeology, for instance, because of, if you remember, zooarchaeology and bioarchaeology also make use of, well, animals and plants and these kind of things. So moving on to the Wikidata, I'm just going to show you a very easy way. Oops, I'm just showing too much now. Okay. So Paula and I have already mentioned about Sparkle. I know you're not into coding right now, but it's just for you to show that you can use very simple examples that are already available in Wikidata. And if you see here, you have map of hospitals, and these examples already give you an example of, let me see, of all the hospitals in the world that are, of course, in Wikidata. There are many more hospitals, I hope, that are not still here. And so how do I know that these are the hospitals? This Wikidata ID, as you see, it indicates that
Vera,
it's...
could you zoom in a little bit so we can see
yes,
it on
of
the screen?
course.
Thank you.
Yes, so I forgot that. Okay.
Lovely, thank you.
Yes, okay. So if I put my, you see here, if I put my mouse over the Wikidata code, it says it's a hospital, but I don't want actually to see all the hospitals in the world. I would like, let me see. Okay, so these are all the hospitals in the world that, of course, are in Wikidata. Let's see here. Whoa. Sorry, it's difficult with the zoom. Okay. So it's an interactive map that it creates. You can zoom and you see all in the UK, several hospitals, and you could go. Okay, so instead of putting here hospital, let's see the Wikidata for museum, the Wikidata code. Oh, it's the one from museum, it's this one. So I will copy, I will just paste it here. And now it says it's museum. So let's run this. I'll run it. And now we'll have a map for all the museums in the world that, again, are in Wikidata. So we should, it's still rendering. It takes a little bit. Sorry. It's taking a little bit more time. Okay, here we are. So, woo, there are more. It seems there seem to be more museums than hospitals. Okay, it's. Well, let's see in London. Sorry, it's so much zoomed. That's okay. Whoa, so many museums in London. Oh, that's wonderful. Okay, and they're very much concentrated here. Okay, so lots of museums, and I'm just clicking one of them randomly. And I can go to this one, and now it's the October Gallery, okay? So this is a very nice way to very rapidly check and access the information. So instead of a map, I can, sorry, just, okay, we'll go to the other one. Yeah. We'll go to the other one. Instead of a map, I could go also, this is map of the locations of all paintings by Vermeer that have an image in Wikidata. And instead of a map, I can choose to have this on a table. And now I could have the table the name of the painting, the coordinates, so the geographic location, and also in Wiki Commons, the image of the painting that is in this place. Okay, or I can even ask Wikidata to show all the paintings of Vermeer that are in Wikimedia. Okay, so this is a very, very rapid way to check or to explore the Wikidata that is available on the internet. And I think I can. Yes. Okay. This is the example of the Vermeer. So we can have in a table all the images or in the map just by doing a very, very simple coding that, of course, we can explore it via the Wikidata services. I didn't show this, might be useful in examples. So you have lots of different examples of queries that you can just change some parts if you're not much into coding. For instance, in the bottom you have different, oops, list of torture devices. No. Okay, female artists. That would be nice to see. And instead, if we don't want female artists, we could use, like here it's female, we could just put, like here it's women, or female. Instead of female, we could put another gender, okay? We just would have to go to Wikidata, search the other code for the other gender, and just change here. So you can use the examples to start with your queries. And no, it's still running, so let's move on. Okay, I think, Paula, perhaps you could explain your data set so we could move on to the OpenRefine exercise. Would it be okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me find my data set super quickly because I have not. Do you have it, Gabby, to share the
I have it,
the
if you want.
You have it, so if you can share the screen maybe, and I can talk. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Yes.
So this data set is a data set that I collated for my PhD, as I was saying. And so in my PhD, I was looking at Roman sites in early Roman Spain. So in Andalusia, more specifically in southern Spain, in Baetica. And in one of the data sets that I wanted to analyze, I wanted to gather information about Roman sites in Andalusia, and I wanted to gather all possible information that I could about each of these sites. So I started to gather information from written sources, so books, but also museum catalogs, gazetteers, so dictionaries of places, so all the information that I could gather online, and by just doing research from written sources all together, and I put it together into a big Excel spreadsheet, which we are seeing here, that I have passed to Vera, and we have made a kind of a subset of the data because we have summarized it a little bit so that it's easy to understand. And here you can see that you have the name of the settlement in the first, well, you have an ID number that Vera has assigned very wisely so that we can identify the role. But then we have the settlement name, and then what does it say on the second? Because I cannot see.
Sorry.
See, urban remains or architectural remain. Then we have information about a potential ethnicity that the settlement has been related to, ethnicity 1, ethnicity 2, etc. When it's more than one, when the places are related to different communities or different ethnical identities in this case, because an aspect that I was looking at in my PhD is whether we could use link open data to get information about cultural identities or intercultural, cross-cultural relationships through the archaeological evidence in these places. So there are dates about when the place was inhabited, what's the period of in which the place was inhabited, the Roman province, the legal status, if it was a colonia or a municipium, etc., etc. You may not be familiar with Roman archaeology, but this is what the data in this case is about. The conventus, which is kind of a regional, how would we say, regional way of like organizing the province. It was very big, so there were different conventus. What else? The name of the modern place. That is really interesting to kind of match the older name of the place with the modern name, so that we can see how places change their name over time, and they can be identified with different names, and how can we reflect this in our data. The modern region, the modern province, the URI from Pleiades, which is a gazetteer of places in the ancient world, which is really, really good to do research in this aspect. So EAPH is the Andalusian Institute of Historical Heritage, Instituto Andaluz Patrimonio Histórico, and this is also a really good resource because they have released data as linked open data about the settlements. So if you go into those links, you can get a data download with all the information about that place.
Once again, this is a public announcement.
Can you see? Thank you. Yes. Sorry. So sorry. Then the Trimegistos URI, which is another really good resource for information about places, about people, about inscriptions, really rich, and the Wikipedia link. So that was the data.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a question, Paula. Did you search for the Pleiades URIs at the Wikipedia? Well, so these columns, did you explore them by hand, manually? Okay, that's
so I did two things, manually and also with OpenRefine. So what we are gonna be explaining. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I will close right now this one.
But yeah, it was a lot of work
Yeah.
to put this together, because I was also gathering information from books, so that I had to either transcribe or do some sort of like using some software to read PDF and translate that into data. So yeah, it was quite a bit of work.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, so we'll do a small exercise with OpenRefine. The outline is first we will download and install OpenRefine. That's in the step-by-step manual in this PDF. We will create a project by importing data, clean and transform data for analyses, undo, redo, and using operation templates, reconcile and match data with linked open data, and export data for further analysis or visualization. Okay. So it is OpenRefine. We've been talking about it. So OpenRefine helps you clean your data to prepare it for analysis, because sometimes your data might need cleaning if it's entered inconsistently, comes from several sources. Oh, that happens all the time, or needs to be formatted in a different way. Okay. So as Paula just mentioned before, sometimes it was difficult to just start structuring the data that she was grabbing from different sources, be them in the internet or publications, so gray literature, books on the library or whatever. Okay, different sources. So I've already installed OpenRefine. You have here the link for those who have a PC. I recommend this one. So to download OpenRefine, but with Java already installed, it makes your work much easier. For those who have Macintosh or Linux, you have here also the other possibilities. Then unzip your file. I'm just going to show you. Okay, so you will download this file. It has a zip there. Then with your right click with your mouse, you just click and extract all, okay? And you will get this folder. Once you have this folder, you will go to this icon. So it's the same icon, it's here. It's number 3. And you will open it, okay? So once you open, it will open this window. Don't worry, just minimize it. And then I'm just taking this one. And then you'll get, it will open a browser window. Oh, okay, I will just, this is so big, sorry. I have to put this a little bit smaller so I can see it. Sorry, I had already opened it. So, and you'll have this web page, okay? I assume you all have already downloaded the CSV file. So we just show the yes, it's this one. Yes, so it's this one. You have already downloaded the CSV file. Paula has already explained what a CSV file. So it's an open version, let's say, of a spreadsheet of Excel. So you don't need to have Microsoft Office installed. You just, it's in your computer, the file. You just browse it. So we're creating a project. This computer, we browse. And I'm selecting the file. I already know where it is. Perhaps it's in your download folder. And then just click next. So this is the CSV file. Next, it's uploading the data. We all assume everything is fine. So it's a CSV file. It's stated here. It's comma separated values. So every column is separated by a comma. And just leave the rest as it is. Okay, create project on the top right corner. So here it is. It's just showing the first 10 rows. And it says that it has 999 rows, so records. But I want to see them all, +1. Just click on the 1000, and here it is. Of course, Paula gave me a spreadsheet much complete and without typos. But I introduced some typos here and deleted some of the cells just for us to play around with this. So let's see. Okay, I have here. Sorry. Sorry. Having two screens. No, I really can't manage this. Okay, so in your the slides that you have downloaded from this presentation, the first exercise is change the case in a column and transform the value type to date in the column with dates. So let's, because we don't have much time, let's just change the case in a column. Okay, so you just have to click, for instance, I will go to this column, the architectural urban remains, and I want everything, in this case, it's just an exercise, to edit the cell, all cells.
Could you zoom in a little bit so we
Oh,
can
sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, Gabby, and sorry, everyone. Why is it? It's not working.
Because you are in the browser. I think if you click on the, see, oh, it's working now.
Yes, sometimes it takes a little bit. Okay. So I'm just clicking in one of the columns, in this case, architectural and urban remains. And I just go to edit cells and common transforms, and I want all the text to be in, for instance, lowercase. So I had here dynastic temple, and you'll see, and everything is in, okay, in lowercase. And if I want to put transform the next rows, I would just do the same thing. So edit cells, common transform, and lowercase or title case or whatever we want. Okay. So let's go to the next exercise. And now we want to cluster cell values. For instance, that's why I did some typos in Paula's spreadsheet. So I know there are some typos. And let's see, I made them in this column. Okay, so we've got some ethnicity related to Abdera, so it's a settlement. And let's see how to cluster this. So we select the arrow, facet, and then text facet, because the column has only text. Okay. As you can see on your left side. Oh, this one doesn't. Okay. Oh, sorry. I gave you another. I selected the one without typos. Okay. Okay, but for instance, let's see. Let's assume, I think this would be very, very wrong, but let's assume that all Punic and Punic Numids are the same. Okay. So I could select and now just see which one. Oh, it all shows me here. Actually, I want the old Turdetani and Turdetani with a question mark to be the same thing. Okay, because now I'm sure that the Turdetani is really definitely Turdetani. So I will decide what's the new value for this cell. It's just Turdetani, okay? Or I could just add something. Now I will ask, well, yes, I could do this. And I have to zoom out, otherwise I won't see. Yes. And merge, selected and close. So you see, here's the question mark. Okay, and all the Turdetani that appear in this column would delete the question mark. But for instance, I will put in this. I will now add, and I'm just adding a typo. Celtic, okay, some typos. And let's go again. Facet, text facet. It's loading. Ah, yes, now we have. That's what I wanted to have. So we want to correct these because it's not correct really. So we will cluster. Why isn't this showing? Sorry. Oh, okay, here it is. Sometimes we have to change the function to see which one gives us the best results. So we want that all these get merged, because the correct word that should be there is Celtic. So it's correct. We merge all these. And now we just have Celtic, okay? So this is an easy way to correct the information. For instance, here a little bit further, we also have in Spanish true and false, and perhaps we could we would prefer that true is yes and false is no, or true is 1 and false is 0, or the other way around, or whatever. So an easy way would be actually to come also text facet. I'll just delete this one. And now false, for instance, to be no. And all the, okay, it's taking a little bit. And the true to be yes. It takes a little bit, sorry. And now everything is yes and no in the mint, and we could do the same for other columns. Of course, this is a kind of things that we could also do in Excel, but when we have a huge amount of data and more complicated data, it becomes very, very useful. Another thing that we could do here is, for instance, in this column, architectural and urban remains, we have several descriptions of architectural and urban remains. So, and they're all divided or separated by semicolon. So we want to divide each of these terms in a different columns. So something that we could do is to split each one of them in a different column. So let's go edit column and then split into several columns. And now we decide, okay, what's separating? It's semicolon. And we want, for instance, in 2 columns. Okay. Let's see. It will create another column. And yes, so the first description was here and the second description is here, okay? And the same would go to other information. But here we have even more, so we could create even more columns for each one of these descriptions, architectural and urban remains. But for instance, what if I missed something? Of course, I can, like in other softwares, I can also undo and redo some of my steps. So I just click on the top left corner, undo and redo, and just go to the step where I think my Excel file or my CSV file was perfect, okay? And I decide where do I want to stay. And what if I've done several steps that I want to apply to other, let's say, to other CSV files that I already have. For instance, say that Paula, she searched in a book, lots and lots of data, and she created an Excel file structured in a certain way. And then she searched it in another archive for another book or dozens of books in another archive. And she also structured in another Excel file the data in the same way. So instead of going step by step with these commands in every one spreadsheet, we can, for instance, extract all these steps or these commands that we've done, like mass edit, text transformation, edit single cells and rows, mass edits, split in columns, for instance, all these steps we can extract or decide which steps we want to copy or apply in another spreadsheet. So if we want to apply all the steps, it's like an action in Photoshop for those who are used to work with Photoshop. So if you want everything, you can just copy all, select all, okay, or and export, or just select, Control-C, copy, whatever suits you best, and export. So it will export as a JSON file, okay? Let's open that JSON file just for the fun. It's opening. Oh no, open file. Oh, where is it? I can't find it now. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, I can't use it here. And I will close this. And now if I open another file, I could apply, I could apply in another Excel file or a spreadsheet actually, and perform the same operations. I will cancel because it's the same spreadsheet. And about reconciling the data, that's the main reason why we're using today OpenRefine, not the other parts. So we want to associate names to database keys. So we have all this spreadsheet, as Paula has already explained, with lots of information here. And now we want to reconcile the data. So let's see. For instance, we want to reconcile the names of the places, and let's see which of these places are have already linked open data. So I could actually reconcile, and now start reconciling. Okay, I had another version. And it was in another place. Oh, and it allows us to reconcile with Wikidata, so the data already in Wiki. Of course, we could add other services like GeoNames, Periodo, Chronontology, Pleiades, etc., or the Getty AAT, and so on and so forth. But I will just use Wikidata. So I select it. And because I'm applying this to the column settlements, yes, it's an ancient city, and OpenRefine already understands that it might be an ancient city. So yes, we accept this suggestion. Okay. And sometimes it's useful to add another column that will help OpenRefine to reconcile better with Wikidata. But let's try just like this. And
Vera, one question. Can
yes?
I ask one question?
Yes?
So what happens if you think that this is an ancient city but also a Roman archaeological site? Like, can you pick two, or
you can use you can use one of these, for instance, human settlement, etc., or archaeological site, for instance. Or if you don't agree with any of these suggestions, look, ancient Roman structure, well, I think it usually guesses well. But if you don't agree with any, you could just choose reconcile against type and start typing here. And if you have the code for, in this case, Wikidata, like a Q152, like a, I don't know, encyclopedia article or whatever, you just put here the code for the Wikidata that you're searching for, okay? Was I clear?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted.
Yes, okay. But we'll start with ancient city, okay, just to see how it works. But if it doesn't work well, so if we're not satisfied, we could, for instance, look, ethnicity, Phoenician. Perhaps this column will help the reconciliation, so the OpenRefine to find the place related to Abdera. But let's see how it works, just like this. So if I want, I could click just ethnicity. So it's just to help this reconciliation. I don't know if I should put it or not, whatever. Okay, let's leave it. Start reconciling. It takes a little bit, sorry. Then it becomes faster, yes. And of course, we can do this for any other column, okay? So
what is it doing while it's doing this reconciling?
Haha, it will be magic. So it's trying to find, in this case in Wikidata, which codes already exist for each one of these settlements. So actually, it's trying to find all the linked open data that already exist, okay?
Is it doing primarily by searching for the name in the first instance and then checking whether all the other things seem to be relevant, or?
Exactly. So look, it already, whoops, okay. No, what's happening? It's when I zoom too much. Okay, now, yes. Okay, so let's see. Actually, it already found something in Wikidata, and it says that's in an ancient city in Spain. So I assume it will be correct. Let me see, just opened it. Actually, Colonia Julia Gemela, sorry. So I think actually that OpenRefine found very well the code, the linked open data for this place. Okay, so let's match this cell. And if we had more cells with the same Abdera, we could match all identical cells, but we just have this cell. So that's fine. And the other was. Okay, so now this one. Oh, sorry, I was in Achi. I put Abdera. Okay, in Greece. So we could go for all the others. I don't think that this place, Abra, actually is a Roman settlement means amyloid beta related angitis. This is something completely different. The same goes to Abra, an enterprise resource planning, no, and gene of the species Macaca nemestrina. So no, we would have to create a new item in Wikipedia to have linked open data to this settlement. Okay, so we could create one in the Wikidata. The same goes to Asinipu, Adharas. We should try to find if any of these former Musk. Is this it? No, I don't think so. Paula, you're the the one who searched for these places. I don't know if it's this one. Well, let me see. Adirkulem already found the ancient settlement in Spain. So it would be also, it doesn't have much information, but yes, the name, of course, it should be the same place. Oh, it's described in some work. We could go, so the linked open data, it's related to this this work. So I assume everything is correct. But of course, if you're doing some research, you really have to verify the sources.
Yeah, it looks great. I'm so excited.
Okay,
Really
so I won't go through all these. So with this short reconciliation, we can verify that there aren't many places in Wikidata. Azido is, Astigi is, Balsa. Oh yes, Balsa, I know that one. Baria, I don't know if this one. No, bariatric surgery, ambulance. I don't know what this one. Let me see. Well, it has no description. Oh, it's a place, just the place. And look, it's linked to geonames. I showed you in one of the slides.
So there is a bit of research required for this sort of reconciliation before.
Yes, because not many people have put the data in Wikidata. That's why. But for instance, you have you have a column that okay, you have the name of the settlement, and then you have a column that says where it is in Baetica Ulteriore, so the Roman name of the region and the places, but also the modern name of the places, the province, the region, the place. You have in all these columns, and instead of doing this by hand manually, oh, that's a little bit boring and it takes a lot of time. So you could just add some of this data. We know that's like Abdera, Achi, and the ones that are already in Wikidata. We can edit column, add columns from reconciled data, this one. And now let's try to find the country automatically, the coordinate location, and let's see, I don't know, postal code, locator map image, located in the administrative territorial entity, etc., etc. Okay, and we put okay. Look, it just finds the data that is already reconciled in Wikidata, nothing else. Okay. So part of the data would be automatically done, and we would only have to fill in the rest of the data. So it's really, really handy. So Abdera is in Greece. These are the general coordinates for Greece, okay? We have latitude and longitude. So again, I've already showed you how to split 2 columns, well, a column in 2. So we could go edit column, split into several columns. It's separated, I will show you. Look, latitude and then a comma and then longitude. So it's separated by a comma, 2 columns now. Okay, and we will have latitude in one column and longitude in the other column. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that was fun. Okay. So that said, look how we have some of the information already automatically done. But again, not much of the information is already in Wikidata, so there's still much work to do. But part of it is already done. Okay. Let me see. Oh, we really have to feed Wikidata. Okay, another one. Maybe it doesn't have more information in Wikidata. That's why the other columns are empty, etc., etc. So we just did this to places, but the same can be done with other kind of information. Okay. Now for imagine that all the cells are completely filled in, and we just want to export the data for further analysis in other software that we already have for statistics and etc. So we just export the data, and we can either export as an Excel file for a database like SQL, or we can automatically start uploading part of the data to Wikidata, for instance. So if I can fill in much more of these, most of this table, I could automatically, with my username and password, upload the information to Wikidata, and then Wikidata would be much more enriched. Okay, but so as I showed, you can export it in several formats, like a CSV file again, etc., etc. Okay. So that's it.
Hi,
thank you
both. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry because I need to go because I have a meeting at 5:30. But that was brilliant. Thank you so much, Vera. So much potential, and I can't wait to keep adding to the data. So thank you so much, and I'm so sorry that I need to go. Sorry, Gabby.
Thank you.
And I will come back to the questions if there are any other discussion, and see if I can come back to the people. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you both very much. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Vera. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
So we have hit the end of our 90 minutes. But if anyone does have any questions in the live chat, we'll give you a couple of minutes to come up with them there, and then we'll respond to them. If not, yes, do feel free to get in touch with any of us separately and with anything that was thrown up by this. Yes, I am fascinated as to what OpenRefine is doing when it decides that that IRIPO is a particular IRIPO. What logic is it? What intelligence is it using to make those decisions? But I mean, I'm aware that's sort of magic, but. So Elizabeth has a question which is addressed to Paula, but I suspect we can also address it. That the spreadsheet we saw from Paula had the whole area of Baetica, but could one do something similar for a single city and then all the locations within that city, for example, having an urban?
Of course. Yeah. Actually, the Excel has places in Greece, Spain, Portugal, so it's Southern Europe, more or less. Yes.
What is the coverage like in, for example, Wikidata for monuments within a city? So if, for example, because I think this is what Elizabeth is probably thinking of, if you had a urban gazetteer of the city of Rome, how easy would it be to reconcile all the places, the archaeological places within Rome to, for example, Wikidata or geonames or similar identifiers?
Well, what I would do, for instance, well, you could spark. Well, if like Pleiades, etc., Wikidata, we know that already has a Sparkle endpoint. So if these digital infrastructures have Sparkle endpoints, like I showed in the Wikidata query service, you can just query it and just download, for instance, a table and add all the tables. Or, for instance, you can also add, for instance, in OpenRefine, you can reconcile. I just showed with Wikidata, but you can reconcile with any other. So you just have to add there, how was it? Let me see, reconcile. I just used reconcile. Sorry, start reconciling. And here I just showed, oops, again, Wikidata, sorry, oops. I just included Wikidata, but of course I can add other services like Pleiades, GeoNames. I just have to put here the service and it would directly start grabbing the linked open data available in the other services like GeoNames, Pleiades, the Getty AAT, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this was just an example. You just have to do more exercises, try to fill in this or other spreadsheets. So it's quite powerful. And also OpenRefine has, you can also code in OpenRefine, but that's more advanced for today.
Also, just to add that what Paula showed us and what we saw in week, I think, 3 or 4 of this semester were examples of regional gazetteers across large space. What we saw 3 weeks ago in the Wikidata session from the IDEA project, the Dura Europos project, was an urban gazetteer. So we had places within a single settlement, and so there's all sorts of different places within that. So there's a whole sort of body of theory starting to arise around that concept of the urban gazetteer as well, which yes, you might want to look at for an area like Rome, for example.
Yeah, and it's important to use also controlled vocabularies, because if you're using different vocabularies, let's say words, just to simplify, different words for the same thing, then it's more difficult sometimes to connect the data. That's why the codes that I showed you, for instance, from Wikidata, from the Getty AAT and so on, they're so important. So they become multilingual, and whatever word any one of us is using, we know they all belong to the same concept. That's why using the code is machine readable. I know we won't memorize. It doesn't make sense to memorize all those codes. It would be completely nonsense. But technically speaking, the code relates to the different words to the same concept. So they centralize, let's say, the concept. And that's one of the very richness of linked open data. So also to make all these infrastructures and all our data fair. We didn't talk about FAIR principles, but I think it's very important, because the FAIR principles it's an acronym for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable data. So that's
those have been mentioned at least 3 times this semester. So yes.
Oh, okay, super.
We're familiar with those. Yeah.
Okay, so many experts.
And presumably we can also use OpenRefine and similar tools to for example, reconcile vocabularies. So not just places, not just people, but also if you've got a list of, terms like, temple or baths or whatever, you can use it to try and reconcile against the various vocabularies for that sort of thing in your spreadsheet. So if you've created your data with not only inconsistent use of terminology, but also just with human readable terminology rather than URIs, OpenRefine can help you get from that to something cleaner over time.
Exactly.
Yeah, fantastic.
I don't know if there are other words. For instance, I have here something. This is, as you were talking, I was trying to find this. This is a reconciliation of different identifiers for the same place. And I'm just going to show, where is it going to open? So I don't know if you can see. Okay, yes, you can see. So this is actually to reconcile the VIAF, libcon, the Library of Congress ID, and also the Portuguese National Library ID for, it's a university in Portugal, the University of Lisbon. So the same university, but all the IDs, 3 types of different IDs for the same place. So we've got here directly the VIAF, Library of Congress, and the Portuguese National Library for, and in 343 milliseconds. So that was very rapid. So the different research centers, their codes. So, okay, maybe this is not useful for you, but this might be useful if you want to, all the codes, specific codes, I mean, like the Getty, the Pleiades, the whatever you feel like, for, let's say, a specific amphora. That might be useful, or for a specific museum, or for a specific settlement, and so on and so forth. So it's, if the data is in a certain place, yes, it's very fine, very rapid to fast to just get the data, instead of going to each of these archives or services and try to find the respective code. It would take lots and lots and lots of time. So this is
important because not every data set will use the same vocabularies because they have different needs, different uses, and also just different tastes. This is my favorite vocabulary, yours is a different favorite vocabulary. So if you want to find all references to a particular place where I've used Wikidata URIs and you've used the National Library of Portugal URIs, having had them reconciled in a third place means you can find both of our data completely indiscriminately.
Yep. Absolutely.
So yeah, very, 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 very handy. Yeah. Great. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you again. I think we really should let people go now. That's great. Yeah. Thank you. This was the end of the spring semester on digital approaches to cultural heritage. There will be more of this at some point in the future. There will be a summer semester of SunoikisisDC Digital Classics, which is going to be focused on digital classical and Byzantine philology. So if that's your tea, see you there in the next few months, and see you all at some point in the future. Thanks again.
Thank you.